Ladies and gentlemen, I predicted a stock market crash. It's going to take place far more than what we've seen. I also talked about banks collapsing in 2021. You might say, well, why are you bringing this up? Why do you keep bringing this up? Well, because how many people in YouTube, in all of YouTube, millions upon millions of channels, has a stock market crash prediction playlist that started in 2021. I also think Bitcoin will get down to 10,000, below 10,000. I think the Dow will get to around 26,000, could be below that. Corporate profits are going to get to where they were in early 2020, late 2019. $10 trillion was pumped into the economy. Now we have Credit Suisse on the verge of collapse and in need of a bailout. New York Post. Wall Street bank stocks plunge after Credit Suisse chaos rattles U.S. market. The market is going to absolutely tank. The reason the market hasn't tanked yet completely is because there's still hope that, SVB, then Signature Bank, then there's First Republic today that came out with the Moody's downgraded a whole bunch of the banking sector, including First Republic Bank. Okay, the 14th largest bank is now junk bond status. I said this would happen. I wrote about this in the Federalist in 2021. And I said, why are Democrats hurtling the United States towards a stock market crash? It's in the Federalist. You can read that. Now you have Bernie Sanders, AOC, or especially Elizabeth Warren saying, oh, yeah, it's Dodd-Frank. And then even Seth Meyers, you have late night saying, oh, yeah, Trump gutted Dodd-Frank. Number one, Democrats voted on that legislation. I think something like 17 Democrats. But Dodd-Frank couldn't have prevented this. In fact, the legislation within Dodd-Frank that was supposed to have been approved by Congress 10 years ago pertaining to derivatives hasn't even fully been approved. Okay, Dodd-Frank is not the reason that these banks are going under. The policies of the Democratic Party, specifically shutting down the economy, then pumping $10 trillion into world economy, the U.S. economy, and then the same thing with quantitative easing and stimulus checks, or at least quantitative easing in other countries and stimulus checks and QE in this country. Elizabeth Warren has said nothing about the $10 trillion pumped into the economy, one out of every $5 created out of thin air. She hasn't even mentioned that. When Democratic governors, yes, there were Republicans as well, but media pushed one specific line, that it was all Trump's fault and that we had to shut down the economy and that the experts said we needed to shut down the economic activity. Then demand for goods and just plummeted. Okay, and I'll have a live stream tonight at around, I would say probably 9 p.m. Pacific time. So be here at 9 p.m. Pacific time to talk about this. Tucker Carlson has come out with videos talking about banks. You can go to Fox News and watch those videos talking about more banks collapsing in the near future. I think that he's unfortunately correct on that. The reason is because you have interest rates that went from 0.25% last March to 4.75%. Again, Elizabeth Warren has not talked about the interest rate hikes in relation to shutting down the U.S. economy. All of this is a repercussion of what Democrats and what Elizabeth Warren and AOC and Bernie Sanders were silent about, or actually encouraged 3 years ago. The hysteria and the paranoia. We couldn't even go get a coffee. First, there was a run on toilet paper. Now there's a run on the banks. You can, I don't think I should you trademark that phrase, but first there was a run on toilet paper. Then Elizabeth Warren and AOC and Bernie Sanders said nothing about it. They didn't care. Now they're saying, well, Dodd-Frank could have saved the economy. No, it couldn't have. Dodd-Frank has nothing to do with Credit Suisse. Why is Credit Suisse going under? Are they going to say it's because Dodd-Frank? This is a U.S. law. So this has nothing to do with Dodd-Frank. There's not one law that could have prevented SVB from making bad decisions when it comes to to the bonds that they purchased, because the bonds they purchased collapsed in price because the Fed increased interest rates too quickly. When interest rates go up, after, by the way, I didn't hear AOC or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren blame Biden for inflation. So inflation went up after the Fed and Democrats said it's no big deal. Then interest rates went up to combat inflation, which they said didn't exist. And now they're saying Dodd-Frank would have saved SVB. But Dodd-Frank and regulation have nothing to do with this. Look, the derivatives, Archegos went under, and I did a lot of work in the stock market crash playlist. I have H.A. Goodman's other channel, which used to be a stock market crash channel, and then now there's a stock market crash channel. But see, again, I've been talking about this. I have 3 channels, but really I only do my work on this channel. Okay, but I'll start, building those. Unfortunately, I'll have to, because everything's, I think that we're all on, I think that the U.S. economy is on thin ice. We're going to have a traditional stock market crash, and when that takes place, of like 6,000 points, be 10% within a day or two, it'll get back to the levels where corporate profits were in early 2020, late 2019. Michael Burry talked about corporate profits declining. Why? The inflation is at 6 to 7%, okay? It's far more for energy and for food. For rent, it's more than 7%. For the 3 things you need every single day, food, energy, and rent, or, mortgages, or rent for your apartment, those things are through the roof in Biden's America. They weren't when Trump left office. That's why when people use words like dangerous for Trump, I don't think they realize what that word actually means. It's actually dangerous to speak in such a hyperbolic manner about somebody where we had record low unemployment. Okay, we had record low poverty in 2019 with Trump. I'll say that again. If somebody just stumbles upon this channel, they think I'm nuts. We had record low poverty, according to CNN and every other publication, with Trump in 2019. Why is that? Because his policies worked. Okay, the tax cuts worked. His policies on regulations and businesses worked. People were doing better. We have to compete with other countries. So therefore, he modified trade deals. USMCA. So these are things that he did. We had hundreds of thousands. We had 200,000 to 300,000 new manufacturing jobs under Trump. We lost 200,000 under Biden. Under Obama, President Obama. So you have a much better economy under Trump, and we're 90 seconds to midnight, according to the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, with Biden's foreign policy. We wouldn't have the invasion in Europe. And if you don't believe me, Tim Pool was talking about that today. We would not have the invasion in Europe because Trump was all about negotiation, a deal, make some kind of deal. But with Democrats and the alliance in Europe, and everybody's just, they're more militant than Trump with less results. The anti-war choice, the pro-economic choice was always Donald Trump. I have no clue. And if they say, well, he wasn't peaceful, and he wasn't indicted on anything. When he was leaving office, they didn't charge him for anything because he didn't foment anything. He didn't commit a crime. It was a terrible day, and he shouldn't even have had that day, but he didn't commit a crime. Now, Biden's policies of going after oil and gas companies, making it difficult for oil and gas companies to operate under the guise of saving the planet while releasing 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves. And then when you tell a Democrat this, they say, well, we had to do that. Well, then what's the point of preaching and pontificating and giving these sermons about the environment and the planet? You're just going to do the same thing as Trump, except Trump had the economic record. You don't. We're going into Biden's 3rd year. You can try to blame Trump all you like, okay? But Democrats voted also to revise Dodd-Frank or to not implement certain policies within Dodd-Frank, but it had nothing to do with interest rates skyrocketing. All of this is a repercussion of shutting down the economy. That's it. It's a repercussion of that. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel. Be here tonight for the live stream about 9:30 or so. Thank you.